For over 4,500 years, the Great Pyramids of Giza have silently dominated the desert skyline, taunting every generation with the same question: who really built these things? History textbooks give you a neat answer: the Egyptians built them. But when you step past the tourist brochures and the polished museum placards, the story becomes far more complicated. In fact, the closer you look, the more you realize that ancient Egypt wasn't a simple static culture but a civilization layered with forgotten dynasties, lost populations, vanished labor forces, and technologies that even modern engineers still argue about. So, let's strip away the Hollywood myths and dig into the actual evidence. The evidence that reveals a much stranger and more powerful story than anything the conspiracy theorists imagined. Because yes, the pyramids were built by Egyptians, just not in the simplistic way history has been packaged. The workers were not slaves. They were a vanished class of elite laborers. For centuries, the Western world assumed the pyramids were built by enslaved masses, dragged in chains by pharaohs drunk on divine authority. It's a convenient myth, and an easy one. But the truth uncovered by archaeology tells a radically different story. In 1990, archaeologist Zahi Hawass uncovered the workers' village at Giza, a settlement complete with bakeries, breweries, medical stations, and workers' tombs. These weren't slaves. They were highly trained, physically elite craftsmen who lived well, ate high-calorie diets, and received medical care that rivaled the best of the ancient world. But here's where the mystery deepens. This construction class disappears from the historical record. They appear suddenly in the Old Kingdom, build some of the most astonishing structures on Earth, and then vanish. No records, no genealogies, no later generations. It's one of the strangest mysteries in Egyptian archaeology, and it forces us to look beyond the simplistic picture of Egyptians built it. Here's where history gets uncomfortable. Egyptians after the Old Kingdom repeatedly tried to copy the Great Pyramid, and failed. You can, walk across Egypt and see the evidence: rougher stonework, steeper angles, collapsed chambers, and, failed structural loads. The early Egyptians of the 4th dynasty, Khufu Khafre Menkaure, possessed engineering capabilities that, honestly, vanished just a few centuries later. The precision of Giza is so extreme that even modern engineers, they debate how those blocks were transported, lifted, and set with tolerances similar to machine-cut stone. Something was different about the workforce and knowledge base of that era, whether it was a hyper-specialized caste, a now-lost guild system, or a centralization of genius-level engineers. What built the pyramids was not a generic Egyptian population. It was a specific, short-lived community whose knowledge, evaporated after the Old Kingdom collapsed. Now we confront a controversial but academically legitimate question: did outside groups contribute to pyramid knowledge? Not aliens, actual migrating human populations. Archaeology shows repeated waves of migration in and out of the Nile Valley during the prehistoric and proto-dynastic periods. Some of these groups brought advanced stoneworking traditions, burial customs, and architectural ideas. For example, Nubian cultures were known for their advanced fortification and masonry skills. Levantine populations, had early megalithic experience. And then you have Western desert groups who were associated with astronomical alignment traditions. When Egypt unified around 3100 BCE, these traditions blended into a single political entity. By the time of the pyramid builders, that hybrid culture was far more diverse, skilled, and complex than the simple Egyptians label implies. So yes, Egyptians built the pyramids, but the Egyptians of the Old Kingdom included multiple ancestral groups whose contributions have been, smoothed over by later political narratives. Another layer of complexity comes from the astronomical precision of the pyramids. The Great Pyramid's orientation to true north is so accurate that even modern compasses can't match it. Its layout mirrors celestial patterns, especially the belt stars of Orion. Where did this knowledge come from? Egyptian texts don't explain it. Later pyramids don't replicate it. Some archaeologists argue that Old Kingdom architects inherited an older set of mathematical traditions, possibly from pre-dynastic priests who observed the skies for thousands of years before Egypt became a unified state. Fascinating, isn't it? If true, the pyramids represent not just engineering skill, but the culmination of a knowledge system older than Egyptian civilization itself. Imagine that, a legacy carried through the ages. So, who really built the pyramids? Here's the truth, the real truth, supported by archaeology but rarely discussed openly. It's a story both ancient and surprisingly modern. The pyramids were built by a highly specialized, elite workforce within Egypt, one that, emerged suddenly, built miracles of engineering, and then disappeared. They were Egyptians, but honestly, Egyptians from a period so different in culture, knowledge, population makeup, and technological ability that calling them simply Egyptians is, well, historically misleading. They were, a lost caste of builders, guided by ancient knowledge, influenced by multiple ancestral groups, operating during a unique, never-repeated moment in Egyptian history. The pyramids weren't the product of a civilization, they were the masterpiece of a generation whose skills died with them. In the end, the mystery isn't who built the pyramids, it's why we pretend the answer is simple.